Welcome, everybody. My name is Kelly Kingston from the Wellness Business Academy, and I'm here with you tonight talking to you about the future of business. Coming into a new year and a new decade that is moving rapidly fast, we need to know that we have our hand on the ball and all our ducks in a row. As we would like to know everything about business and do it ourselves, we know we can't. So we have to engage in professionals that have studied and are qualified to support us in our small businesses to keep us on track so that we can grow and thrive in our business so it can sustain us through for our families and for our families' families. Our hot topic tonight is strategy and proper structures for you and your business. Tonight's special guest is Donnelly from Arcana Strategic. Graham is a qualified accountant with over 30 years experience in assisting small businesses in reaching their full financial potential through strategy and proper structures. Tonight, Graham will be talking to you all about the importance of strategizing and the proper structures for you and your business. And when I say you and your business, and you're probably wondering why, is because if you are a sole trader and you are earning more than the yearly amount to step into a threshold, which Graham will touch on a little bit later, you might need to be a incorporated business. So when we're talking about you and your business, it's not just your business, it's you as well, positioning yourself in a secure position so that you know what you're doing, where you're doing, and where you're going in your business. So welcome, Graham, to Spiritual Events and Directory and the future of business.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks for the invite and glad to be here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. So, Graham, tonight I've invited you onto our show to support people in small businesses in the spiritual and wellness industries so that they can actually get a grasp on what to do and what not to do, what to say and what not to say. So I've organised a few questions that you will be happy to answer for us. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So my first question for you is, for someone looking to getting started in business, what is the first thing that you advise them on doing?
Great question. The process that we follow, regardless of whether you're brand new in business or you've been in business for many years, is almost the same. And what we need to do is to work through a process where we find out where people are currently at and also where they want to go. And so part of our process is to get a real understanding of that from the client. The way we do that is, as I say, very similar in each case. So what we first ask for them to provide us with is what we call our financial snapshot. And that's simply a status report on where they actually are today financially. So what structures do they have? Are they trading through a sole trader, a partnership, a trust, or a company? Do they have a self-managed super fund in their business structures? Do they have other people involved, partners or other business partners, as in life partners or business partners? So we go through this data collection process, which is very simple. It's literally a one-page document. We also ask them to provide us with a copy of their last lodged tax returns, because there's still a little bit of confusion in the marketplace about what people actually have, in terms of people might have a registered business name, and I hear it all the time. They say, well, my company does this. Well, technically they're not registered as a company, they just have a business name. So it's really important for us to know exactly where they're at, what they're currently trading at, and also where they want to go. So that's the first thing we do. The next thing we look for is, do they have a plan? And the old cliche about most people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan, is actually very true. So getting a decent plan in place, and sometimes people need help to do that as well. So do they have a plan?
So just to highlight that area, a plan, is that like a business plan or an action plan? What do you like, to see your clients have when they come to you?
Ideally, and it doesn't happen very often, Kelly, which is really poor. And I guess that's probably why so many small businesses fail in the first few years of their existence, is that they don't have a plan. So I'm not talking about a business plan that's, 80 pages long and sits under the, as a doorstop behind the door because it's so big and no one understands it. It's actually a working plan. So something that is fairly brief. It might end up being a dozen pages or maybe more, but it just covers out all the key factors that are important in making their business successful, including the financial aspects of that. So where's the cash flow coming from? What are their expenses? And how are they going to deliver on their dream? So a business plan is really more of an action plan, something that's usable, something that you work with and that you use every day rather than just file in a bottom drawer and never see again.
And so for small businesses that are, looking at, wanting to step up their business for, the new year, the new decade, get more planning happening, know what they're doing and how they're doing it. What kind of, action plan do you mean? Is it like a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month action plan?
Yeah, we like to, I've seen and used a number of coaching models over my career. And the ones that I see that work the best are those that kind of have an annual or a sort of a long-term vision. But I'm not so concerned about the long-term vision. That's where they'd like to be. But the more important things are then breaking it down is where do I want to be in 12 months time? And then bring it back so that it becomes where do I want to be in the next 90 days? And if I want to achieve my goals in 90 days, then what do I have to do in the next month, week and day to actually achieve that? So you bring it right back to what can I do today to get me closer to my objectives. So that's why it's got to be very workable and very user-friendly, because an 80-page document that sits under a desk is not going to help you with that. So it has to be very usable and very specific about what do I need to do today, this week, this month, this quarter to get me towards my goals.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, my second question for you is, if a small business owner has no idea about tax or BAS, which the business people that I speak to really have no idea, and that's a lot, and they have been in their business for a few years and haven't lodged a BAS statement, what would you say to them?
As you say, it is very common. And one of the reasons it's very common is because most small business people tend to be probably a bit more entrepreneurial because they're in business themselves rather than working for others. And they have a vision to actually deliver on a higher level. So it's not uncommon because their natural tendencies are not in sort of what we call the left brain analytical space where bookkeepers and accountants generally live. They're more in that sort of right brain creative space. So it's very common that happens. So they drop the ball on the day-to-day stuff, which is unfortunately very important. The answer to your question is part of our initial fact find and know your client process is to identify what needs to be done to get their compliance up to date. So what tax returns are outstanding, what BAS statements are outstanding. Sometimes it's about what accounting systems they have in place. So we strongly recommend an online accounting package, something like Xero with an X, that's Xero, because it allows people to actually keep a track on their finances. It also allows their external accountants and advisors to access that information to be able to help them in a timely manner. So it's not a problem. It just becomes a to-do list that we often help our clients to navigate, not only to navigate getting them up to date, but then also saying, well, what do we do moving forward so that this happens in a timely manner? It's also very important that after a period of time, then the tax office are going to start fining people for not lodging their tax returns and BAS statements on time. And so $1,000 fines are not uncommon. So we don't want our clients to be starting to get fined simply because they just don't know how to get that process started. So again, that's a very easy fix for the right people, but sometimes the business owners are not that right person. So they just need to get some external help. And that's something we help our clients with a lot.
Okay, thank you so much. My next question, I have actually seen a lot late last year in small businesses, and it is, if you're a small business owner and you are not making enough money to cover your day-to-day expenses and your bills, and you start tapping into your GST money, what do you do?
You need to do something fairly quickly. Because the dangers are that, and the laws are changing rapidly in this area again, where business owners are actually being held much more accountable to the tax office and other authorities for outstanding GST, as well as money they've withheld from their employees' wages, things like super and things like that. So it can become quite a problem. But the most important thing is to try to identify as quickly as possible what's causing them to be in like a negative space in terms of where their expenses are greater than their income. So again, identifying why that is happening is often a function of no plan and trying to do everything themselves. One of the things that we've recognized, certainly over, again, and through my long career, is that we're all very good generally at sort of a small group of tasks in our business. And it's important that we try to identify what those things are and try to be spending as much time as possible doing those things that we're uniquely good at, and working to outsource or to not even do sometimes some of those tasks that we're not good at. So again, engaging with the right people, using their networks, asking questions, getting referred to people who can help them, but do it quickly. The minute you start having to dip into your GST reserves to pay for basic operating costs, you're obviously not making money. So there's something that needs to be done quickly, and the quicker you get onto it, the better.
Very, very good advice. My next question for you is, if you're a small business owner and due to unforeseen circumstances, you had to go bankrupt for whatever reason, whether it was a marriage breakup or your business partner spent, the majority of the funds, or something happened, whatever. Is it a possibility for that bankrupt person to get started back in business?
Another very interesting area of activity that we do tend to assist clients a lot with. Bankruptcy doesn't necessarily have to hold the stigma that it often does. We've used it as a strategy in many cases where we've made a decision with the client where it seems better to actually file for bankruptcy, because at that particular point in time, that person or that company is technically insolvent, which means that they can't pay their bills, can't pay their debts when they fall due. So bankruptcy can actually be a strategy, and in certain circumstances, it can have a small effect, not the major effect that a lot of people do. The most important thing, again, is get advice early and try to identify what it is that can be done to restructure the business so that it can survive and move forward. Hopefully learning some of the lessons that put that person or business in that space in the first place and not repeating them is another key. So every situation that I've ever dealt with, and we've dealt with literally dozens, maybe hundreds, are all different. So they're all different circumstances, all different causes, and it's about, again, trying to identify what it is that needs to happen to actually allow the person to continue. One of the most important things that I insist that clients understand is that once they understand that it's just a process, it's not, it's not the end of the world. It can actually be a positive strategy. The thing that we have to do in these situations is ensure that our clients maintain one very, very important thing. And that important thing is their ability to continue to earn income. If assets are lost, you know, the car's gone or the house is gone or whatever, so be it. It's honestly just stuff, and you can recreate that if you do it properly. So, but the bit that happens between your ears and the mindset about it is probably the most critical thing. And that's things that we can help with, because we're not emotionally attached to the outcomes, even though we're partnering with people side by side. But it's also about helping them to identify what the possibilities are. What I like to do is to try to get people to understand their options, and so they can actually ask better questions. Once they have all the information at hand, then they can move forward in a positive way. So yeah, again, seek advice as soon as possible. Don't wait too long. It's probably not as big a problem as they're making it out to be. Get it sorted, get a strategy, get onto it, and start moving forward without the stress.
Thank you. So a lot of people in these situations kind of feel like they are not successful, or, you know, they've done something really, really wrong, and they do wait. And they wait until it's way too late to be able to get them out of the situation, so they don't have to go bankrupt. Is that what happens?
I think it is, most definitely, and it's just about that mindset. Sometimes there's a bit of ego in there, I suppose. Oh, look, I'm a failure. It hasn't worked. But the way I look at it is, if you're not out there having a crack, then you take no risks. Yeah. People who generally end up in these situations, the people out there having a fair dinkum go, and they're employing people, they're creating value, they're trying to do something that has a positive impact on either on their families, on their communities, or on their country, the planet. Who knows? But generally, it's people who are out there having a crack. And I think if you looked at the stats, most of what people would consider to be successful people, whether it be financially or in using other measurement tools, most of them have generally been bankrupt at least once.
Oh, really?
I think you'll find, I couldn't quote you the exact stats, but there's a very high percentage. And the reason for that is that people are out there having a go. So sometimes things work, sometimes things don't. It's not the end of the world. And as long as we can protect that person's ability to continue to earn income, then all is not lost. And in fact, I've seen situations where people have lived basically in a depressed state for long periods of time, maybe even years. And once they've realized that there's a way out and they make a change, you can just see the weight lifting off their shoulders. Their whole demeanor changes, their relationships get better, their health gets better. They have a plan. They're moving towards something rather than just hiding from things all the time. So it's very rewarding from our point of view, where I love to be able to help those people, understand where they're at and to help them move in a positive direction for possibly the first time in a long time. And I think also when they understand maybe who they're letting down in the process, then mostly themselves. So, but mostly they're letting themselves down by staying in that space rather than making a change. So a very rewarding area. And we tend to have a number of fairly creative strategies where we can help people in those circumstances. We just need to get in front of them and be able to have that conversation sooner rather than later.
Okay, very, very cool. Now, I have actually heard you speak before, and one of my favorite things I love hearing you say is, what is the definition of wealth to you?
Yeah, it's a terrific one. Back in about 2004, I was introduced by a very good friend of mine to a gentleman called Roger Hamilton. Roger is a highly successful, businessman in his own right, but he was, at the time, he'd created a new model of profiling. It's not a personality profile. He calls it a wealth profile. And the brand he uses is Wealth Dynamics. And in that profile, it's about identifying, as I mentioned a bit earlier, what part of our business we should be focusing most of our attention on, because it's the part that we're actually uniquely good at or provide the greatest value. And so Roger Hamilton's Wealth Dynamics model defines wealth as what's left when all the money's gone. And to this day, it still gives me goosebumps when I say that, because it's all about what you create. Money is really a scorecard, and it's only about, who's got the biggest bucket of money really is not important, because you can recreate money if you have good wealth or great wealth. And wealth could be your attitude, your networks, your education, your experiences. A whole range of things can contribute to your wealth. And it's from that wealth basis or foundation that you can then create everything that you want, whether it be successful businesses, money, material assets, whatever it is that you're striving for. So just to repeat that, wealth is defined under the wealth dynamics model as what's left when all the money is gone.
Absolutely. And it's how you can recreate that wealth as well, isn't it? Through the mindset and your personal development on empowering yourself and inspiring yourself to be that next version of yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And so while we're on the topic of profiling, so I was actually profiled many years ago as a creator profile. And anybody that knows me would know that that suits me to a T. But some other people would not even know what profiling is for businesses. Would you recommend that people profile themselves before they actually get started in their business to make sure that they're on the right track?
Absolutely. Back in 2004, after the introduction, I think it was probably a year or so later, I actually did what's called the Wealth Dynamics Profile Test. And it's an online test. We can send links out to, to people if they're interested. I think it's about $100. I did the test back then. I don't think it's gone up since 2004-5. So it's still about $100. And I can honestly say it was the best $100 I think I've ever spent. Because what it said to me is, once I understood what my profile is, and there's 8 profiles in the model, and so it distinguishes between intuitive thinkers and sensory thinkers, and introvert and extrovert kind of activities. So more people, and then on the other side, more systems and asset management. So it's a very simple model. It takes about 15-20 minutes to do the test. But it changed my life. Absolutely. That $100 was the best $100 ever. And to this day, still, I don't have any business relationships or employ staff whose profile I don't know, because it's very important. It's impossible to actually get people to act consistently and over the long term out of their profile. You can say, oh, I can do it because I can do bookkeeping as well as sales, and that's okay. But which one are you actually uniquely better at? And so therefore, which one should you be focusing most of your attention on? So doing the wealth profile test, I think, is a really important part of small business growth. And once people understand their profile, then they can move forward in that direction, building a business where they can spend most of their time doing that thing that they are uniquely good at. There are other tests out there as well. It's just the one that I found at the time when I was really looking for it. And it, as I say, changed the way I've done things from then on to this day.
And you really like that model that Roger Hamilton, puts out there. It's like he brings spirituality and business and all that kind of stuff together to make it really easy to understand.
Yeah, he does, and it goes way back, and a lot of people listening to this will probably resonate with it because it incorporates astrology, astronomy, the I Ching, a whole range of ancient philosophies and teachings. Not just it's not about money. As I said, the wealth definition is not about money. So I think a lot of people in this network would really resonate with it, and I know that it would help them to create a better future because they'd be focusing most of their time in the space that they are going to add the greatest value. So absolutely, I think it's an imperative part. And for all our clients, I always have that conversation with them and recommend them doing the profile, because our value to them is enhanced by knowing exactly what their profile is. Because I've been around it so long, I tend to be able to pick people generally, but it's always nice to get that confirmation exactly so that you can focus their attention in the right place.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. So to all the viewers that are watching this video, what is from your expertise and your wisdom that you've seen a lot being an accountant for well over 30 years, what would be the one piece of advice that you would like to kind of tell them, share with them, that you see a lot where people go into being really stressed or fall out of their business or whatever the case may be? What would be that one bit of advice?
Wow. It's hard to focus on a particular single item, but we've touched on, wealth profiling, for example, and I think that's probably the key. To me, it's about how do I design a business that I can do something that I'm passionate about and do the part of that I'm best at for the long term. That's probably the key, because the rest of it falls into place. If I've got a client who's literally spending 80 to 100 hours in their business, obviously their health is poor, their relationships are tragic, and the reason they're doing that is because they tend to be doing a whole lot of jobs that they are, one, really bad at, and two, shouldn't be doing. So the important thing is to actually identify that early and then design a plan to move them forward into a space where they're doing that. So find something you love and then find out which part of that you are really good at doing from a business perspective, not just because it makes you feel happy, but generally things that make you feel happy are you're in your flow when you're doing them. Find what that is and then spend most of your business time in that space. And hours is not the answer. Spending more hours in your business is generally not the answer. It's about spending quality time in the spaces that you should be operating in.
Well, thank you so much, Graham, for being on the Spiritual Events and Directory page and supporting the future of businesses for wellness and spiritual business owners. In closing, I would just like to say, so if you are in business and you are stuck and you don't know what to do or how to go about it, start off with personal development. Start off with, who are you? What do you want to do? And what do you want out of what you want, ideally? Okay, because if you are not happy within yourself, there's no way that you can be happy in your business. None at all. So if you concentrate on number one, oxygen mask on first, then you can then go into your business and then strategizing what you want out of your business and then ticking off all the boxes. Okay, doing a business audit. Now, if you don't know what a business audit is, PM me, contact me. I have templates. I'm more than happy to have a consultation with you and to get you started so that you can then do a DIY, create your own business. We do mini workshops to support you in any way, shape or form. And if you have different aspects of, you've got that set up, but you need this set up, we can also help you in your unique situation for where you are currently right now. So thank you everybody for joining us. Next week we will be talking about asset protection. Okay, that's home asset protection, business protection, individual protection. If you're offering advice, a lot of spiritual and wellness business owners that are stepping into businesses don't realize that they could be liable under giving different aspects of advice to people. And I've seen this a lot with some of my friends, and I really, really feel that this is really important for people to know where they're situated and to make sure that they're covered. So thank you so much again for joining us. Thank you again to the beautiful and amazing, sensational, inspirational Sarah Watkins, owner of Spiritual Events and Directory, Pop-Up Psychics. What else does she do? She's got some new stuff here. The Spirituality Show. We love you very much. You're the best. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Bye, Graham.
Bye.